Hello, witchy friends. So, welcome to the Tack Shack After Hours. In fact, this is my second time trying to film this. I was just in the middle of saying in my last one how it's so peaceful here, and I like to do videos at work because I don't get interrupted by my family or my pets or whatnot. And in the middle of that, my dad called and interrupted the video on my cell phone. So much for that idea. Anyway, for the most part, it's pretty peaceful here in the office. So you do see the office in the background a lot, and that's why, because there are few interruptions. But in this video, I want to talk about the recent experience of having to put my dog Annabelle down. And you guys are going to notice a recurring theme here, because my life for the last almost 2 years has pretty much revolved around death and illness and mortality and all these things. And so that's where I'm at right now. That is where my life is at right now. And so that's what I have a lot to talk about. So if that's not your bag, baby, then click away, darling. But recently in November, right after, just a few days after I reposted my first video on this channel in forever, we had to put my dog Annabelle down. And it had been a long time coming. That poor dog had so many medical issues. She had a paralyzed larynx, so half of her larynx didn't work properly, and she had breathing issues. She had Cushing's disease, so that affects your nerves and your joints and your bladder and your water intake and all sorts of things. She had heart problems. She had torn ligaments in her back legs, and so she'd had major surgeries, and that poor girl was just, I'm surprised we had her for the 12 years that we did, quite frankly. But it was a long time coming, and there were multiple times when I took her to the vet, and the vet would say, it could be any time, it could be this time. And so it was something that I was prepared for. But it was still very difficult. Normally, when we have had to have a pet put down, it has been an emergency. It has been like, rush to the vet right now. Oh my gosh, there's nothing we can do. They're just going to suffer. So we put them out of, their pain. And this time, it was not exactly that case. She had been in a lot of pain. And multiple times I was advised by, friends or relatives that I should put her out of her misery. She's just in pain. She's just suffering all the time. But, there was always moments. There was always times where it was like, no, she's still hanging in, And she was my baby. She was my kid. She was my sister. She was my best friend. She was so many things to me. I mean, we were spiritually connected. I love that dog. Unlike any other pet I've ever had. And, so I prayed and prayed and prayed and pondered and talked to her and just was like, you know what? When you are done, when you are ready, you have to tell me. And finally, she was to the point where she couldn't do anything except lay in her kennel. She would get up only to eat, and she had to sit to eat. She had such a hard time just standing. And then she finally started to wet herself in her kennel. She couldn't even get outside to go to the bathroom. And when that started happening, then I knew. I mean, she just had that look in her eyes. She was tired. So it was agonizing. It was agonizing to me because it wasn't an emergency. So we had to make an appointment with our vet to go in and have her put down. And there is a point to all this. I'm not just, sharing this story. There is a point to all this, I promise. But we had to make the appointment, and it was in the afternoon. So we spent a whole day with her, just loving her and feeding her all kinds of goodies that she never ate, was eating before. Like hamburgers and bacon and, all kinds of deliciousness. And just laying with her and loving her and enjoying our last day. And then, we had to take her in. And it was such an odd sensation, such a weird feeling. But it was something, for months and months and months of people telling me she needs to be put down. You should just put her down. And I agonized over just the fact that as humans, we have that power over life and death. We can just say, you're done, and put you down. And, it's not something I take lightly. I understand the necessity. I understand the, when someone's in so much pain, when a spirit, a soul is in so much pain physically, it's a gift sometimes to release them from that. But it's not anything that I take lightly at all. It was very serious to me. And I knew that it had to be the right moment. You do not waste a life. And no, I'm not vegan yet or ever. I don't know. I'm a complicated woman. What can I say? But I have a certain respect for, my food and my meals and things and where they come from that I think other people don't. The average Joe. But anyway, that's another topic for another video. Anyway, it's not something I take lightly, and I really did wait and consider. And I think that's something that, as witches, we have a certain propensity for knowing when the best time for something like that is, when to utilize that power. We have wisdom. Not all of us. But I think that's what we learn to wield is our wisdom. The word witch comes from, what is it? That ancient word Wicca or Wicca. It's all, revolves around the meaning of wisdom, the wise person. So it takes, when you are dealing with life and death, you have to have a certain wisdom to know what you're doing and what the consequences are of what you're doing, and to fully think about the repercussions of what it is you're going to be doing and accept that responsibility. So my husband, who was one of the naysayers telling me, oh my gosh, she's just in so much pain, we should just get it done with, put her out of her misery, for probably a good year, he was telling me that. Even before that, suddenly the time came, I made the decision, and he started to question, are we doing the right thing? Is this really right? Should we be doing this? I knew it was, because I had taken the time to consider. I had consulted with her, with my guides. I knew it was time. I was at peace with the decision. But he finally, when faced with it, was questioning. And even my dad and my brother were questioning. They had told me before, put her down, put her down. And then suddenly everyone had a change of heart. They couldn't let go. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that we just lost my mom a few months prior. And this was all hitting them very hard. But I really took the time to consider and know my options. And when we were at the vet's office, and she's sitting there next to me, and I'm petting her and calming her, and the vet comes in, my husband didn't really know the process. And because he had not really, he kind of knew, because he'd been in the room when we had our bird put down, but not when we had, our cat put down. And when they injected her and she immediately started to slump, he just started to bawl. It was so hard on him. And afterwards he said, that stuff works quick. You cannot change your mind once you do that. There's no going back. And I said, exactly. And that's why you can't take decisions like that lightly. It's such a serious thing. Every decision we make has consequences, and there's no going back. So really, I think the whole point of this story, this topic, is wisdom, and not rushing into things, and not taking things for granted. That is one lesson that I have learned quite well is just to appreciate what you have, be grateful, really, really take time with people and pets and loved ones when you can, prioritize, and use your wisdom. You know, I've been hearing that adage again of witches who can't hex can't heal. And, you know, it's a controversial statement because there are witches out there who are against hexing and whatnot. And I think personally for me, looking at that statement, the truth is that all witches can hex if they can heal. It's having the wisdom to know whether or not you should, when you should, and to know that there are consequences that you will have to take responsibility and accountability for, and you will have to deal with your actions and your intentions. So I think that that's something that comes with experience, not just with skills. A lot of what makes up wisdom is your experience, and sometimes we make horrible mistakes before we learn the right way, the wise way. But yeah, I was watching a couple of videos earlier today that were discussing that, and I was thinking about just the whole thing and relating to it. And so that is pretty much the point of that story, you know, and we do miss our dear sweet Annabelle. The house is just not quite the same without her, but I am still at peace with the decision that we made, and her little tin of ashes is sitting in my headboard now with the little paw prints all over it. So I think in the summertime we'll probably go spread her out underneath her favorite tree. And it will never stop me from being a collector of pets. I must always have doggies and kitties in my home, period. But that's it. So hopefully that was not too much of a bummer, you guys. Again, it's what I have to talk about right now. It's what I'm going through. So a lot of my stories are going to be on this subject. And I hope that's okay. I'll still try to interject other things so it's not a big downer when you come to my channel. All right. Blessed be and have a great night.